Hi there, it's the Grape Explorer. I tell you what, it's really getting cold here in the UK, so I've put a scarf on for today. I thought it would be really great to give you an idea about some of the news stories that are happening in the world of wine at the moment. You know, for someone who enjoys studying wine and tasting wine, I actually quite enjoy hearing about some of the stories from the world of wine as well, because it can give you some really useful information about how certain regions' harvests are coming along, some of the growing difficulties around the world, and generally just some fun stories that come from the world of wine today. So what I've decided to do is on a monthly basis, I'll be running through some of the best wine stories I've been able to pick out from around the world. So let's have some official news round music, shall we? Okay, I think that's a bit too serious, but you get my point. So I'm actually going to start off with a story about Napa County. Right now, it's October of 2019, which means that their harvest is well underway. And it was reported this week that around 75% of the harvest is completed in Napa County. While some growers are done with the harvest, others had around 50% of their crop still to collect. And as of this week, the vineyards are reporting that this has been a very good summer. It's been a very smooth harvest in their words, and the fruit just looks and tastes absolutely fantastic. So something to look forward to coming out of Napa this year, I hope, which I'm sure will put an increase of price on those wines. But yeah, something to look forward to coming out of Napa. The pace of the harvest has been calm. They're seeing really great flavours coming through, which is absolutely fantastic. This couldn't be said so much for Chilean wines, where down in the southern hemisphere it's their spring moving into summertime, and ferocious frosts have hit the Chilean vineyards during the spring this year, with nighttime temperatures plummeting below 0 degrees for 3 days consecutively, which has caused significant frost damage within the vineyards. Now, this has occurred in Chile's Central Valley. Some vineyards are reporting losses of up to 100% of their shoots following a severe frost. So just think what that's going to mean towards the end of this growing season for Chilean wine. There's going to be a lot less of it. That could pump up prices for everybody moving into the 2020 vintages coming from the southern hemisphere. So frost damage has also extended into the coastal zones such as San Antonio and Casablanca. So these are huge regions within Chile, and this is clearly going to have a detrimental effect on the harvest and on the growing for the season prior to the harvest. Okay, next we're moving on to a story about the US liquor giant Total Wine. They lost an appeal to have a megastore opened in New York State. The Supreme Court upheld the authorities' refusal to grant a license, citing public interest grounds. And I think I can see where they're coming from here. You know, if you've got someone dominating the market in such a way, it creates no more competition because no one's left to compete with. It is a little bit unfair. And from a personal perspective, I struggle when I'm in a shop to choose between 5 bottles. Goodness knows what a megastore would have been offering by way of wine. It was going to be a 21,000 square foot megastore, so goodness knows how many wines they were going to be offering in there. They were hoping to expand their offering in New York State with a new site, but they've been dealt a blow. Now, the public interest element of this story comes to the fact that there are 200 smaller independent liquor stores in the area, and I think this ties back into what I was saying about competition. You know, that's incredibly unfair. You know, we like to have healthy markets where we are, and so I think, you know, that isn't something that I would support personally. I think it's right that these stores don't become all-encompassing, because really they just, in the end, mean that you're only able to buy certain wines from them because they'll have struck deals with other producers. And a lot of those more boutique wineries, there's a risk that they could fall away where they're not able to get their product into other stores. So I'm actually in support of something like this not being opened. Staying on the subject of wine shops though, here in the UK we have a chain of stores called Majestic Wine. And they're not huge stores, believe me, they're not giant, super giant stores like the Walmart of wine or anything like that. But what they've decided to do is they're targeting the streaming generation, your Generation X types, your millennials, with a new wine fitting service. Now, the reason they've come up with this is because even though wine in the UK is probably the most popularly consumed drink and is steadily on the rise, only 12% of consumers claim to understand a wine list, and 25% say they know nothing about wine. So what this service is going to do is going to focus on the stylistic qualities of wine rather than the grapes or the regions. So rather than say, have you got any favourite grapes? It's going to be asking what kind of flavours do you look for in a wine? You know, do you like something spicy, something fruity, something woody? And through that, this service is going to be able to select specific wines tailored to that individual in a way to help them grow their wine knowledge, but also ensure they're buying something they like. What they're also going to do through their website, and this is a very Netflix or Spotify type approach to wine, is to actually say, well, based on your previous wines that you've selected and based on your stylistic qualities that you look for in wine, here are some recommendations for you. So they're really hoping that some lesser known grapes perhaps are going to become more popular through this service, and it is a bit like a streaming service for wine, isn't it? So I'm keen to see how that takes off being in the UK and see if that's something that becomes more and more popular. Moving over to France now, and one of the world's biggest fashion houses, Chanel, is decided to make Provence Rosé after a recent winery purchase. They're going to be making wine on the French Riviera. I can't think of a better place for a fashion house to be making wine. Chanel, which is controlled by the Wertheimer family, has purchased Domaine de Lille for an undisclosed fee, and they're now going to be moving into rosé wine. Now, the rosé wine constitutes around 70% of production at this particular winery, and they make a Côte de Provence rosé style, including Grenache and Mourvèdre. Plus there's some Cinsault, some Syrah and some Tiborin as well, which is a grape I'm actually not familiar with, so keen as to see what that's like. They also make white wines, plus a red wine from Syrah and Grenache as well. So expect to be seeing some Chanel bottles on the shelves very soon. I don't know if you'll be paying a bit more for that label or not, but certainly interesting that a fashion house is moving into wine. They are looking at this presumably from a marketing perspective, with your handbag, your wine, your suits, your ties, your bottles, you know, all very glamorous, all very fancy, and I'm sure it will probably be a success. If you've seen my programme about wine documentaries, you may know that I'm a big fan of the Somm documentaries. So it's interesting to note that the producers of the Somm documentary have recently launched a new streaming service that's like Netflix but for wine and culinary enthusiasts. It features original shows and feature films, licensed films like Bottle Shock, Super Size Me, so food and wine related, live masterclasses that are going to not only entertain you but provide you with a little bit of insight and knowledge into the food and wine industry, as well as things like coffee, sake, craft beers as well. The platform is going to launch in full scale in March of 2020, but is available now to subscribers during an introductory period. The app's going to be available on a number of devices. The Somm filmmakers believe that there's a massive changing landscape within the entertainment industry, and particularly the way people are digesting content. And so they feel they've identified a gap in the market perhaps, and they're going to launch here. It's really aimed at people who are looking for a bit more of an inside look into these industries. Somm TV original shows and films are going to feature many of the familiar faces from their documentaries and their films, including a series called Cellar Stories, where they're going to be talking about particular bottles, particular vintages, and I think this could be a really good offering. So for those of you interested in taking it up, it's available right now in the United States, priced at $9.99 per month or $74.99 for the year. Finally, I'm going to end on a really unusual story in that some Italian police have recently seized some Prosecco flavoured Pringles. Hundreds of packets of Prosecco flavoured Pringles have been seized by anti-fraud police in northern Italy over an alleged misuse of the protected wine name. Prosecco is a protected wine name under EU law and under Italian law as well. So packets of the Prosecco crisps, which were made under the Pringles brand, were seized from shops belonging to a specific supermarket chain in the Veneto region, and this was from a speech given by Italy's agricultural minister. We cannot allow identity theft, they said. The ministry had said that the snacks, which claimed to contain Prosecco flavouring, had used the name of the popular sparkling wine without approval. Now, to me, crisps should be savoury. I have no idea why a fizzy crisp with lemon, lime and apple flavours is going to be successful at all, but it just goes to show how wine has grown over the last few years, and in particularly how much more popular Prosecco has become. So this is a really interesting story. I certainly haven't seen wine crisps before. I've seen wine sweets, wine gummy bears, that sort of thing, but Prosecco Pringles is certainly a new one on me. Whether or not we're going to see them into our stores ourselves, only time will tell. So that's it for October 2019. Those are some of my favourite wine stories I've seen over the last month. But let me know if you've seen any, get in touch, drop me a comment below, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.